it's sort of happened that way here with the book too, which is great.
And we'll just say this now, I'll tell you who it is later, but there's 3 people in this room who actually were in the show. In one episode or not.
When are you going to reveal that?
We'll reveal it along the way.
All right, well, we were talking a little bit, and you touched on this a bit, about the Center universe and how it's sort of expanded. So can you talk a little bit about the plans and where that's all going?
For the Center Universe? Yeah, the Center Universe, again, it kind of came out of, we wanted to do more than just the Pretender, and we knew that the Pretender overlay had a lot of potential tentacles out there that we could write new material and really try to bring new fans in at the same time. So what we've done is first of all, we want ideas from everybody who visits the site, pictures, ideas that they've had about the Pretender. And a lot of those ideas, we read them all and we say, that's pretty cool, maybe there's something there we can do, with that.
And we actually answer all of our emails to everybody who writes us. Done a couple other things that are interesting, and it ties to the universe. We realize the center's vast and it does a lot of other things, so we have a couple, like the Young Miss Parker books is part of the Center Universe because it's a different thing. The graphic novels are part of that Center Universe. Next year we're going to launch 1 or 2 other books that are tied in, one of which is written by someone in this room who was actually one of the writers on the show and was in the show. And it is about a guy who hunts serial killers who learned his trade from Jerry. And basically does it as, not as a pretender, but as in one aspect of being a pretender. And we realize there's so many different variations of where that can be that we wanted to bring that into the forefront. So actually, this guy over here is writing those books with us. And he wrote several episodes of Mark Johnson. And if those of you who are, if you're fans of the show, remember when Little Miss Parker first was brought into the Sydney's lab because her mother committed suicide one night outside. Mark, who's a good friend of mine and was like my best friend in high school, happened to be on the set that day. This is before we started writing. And we needed someone to be the sweeper, and he goes, I'll do it. And of course, in the middle of it, he gave himself a line, but which was not written because he wanted to actually say something.
We didn't pay him.
Yeah.
Do you still owe him money?
Yes.
Yeah, probably do.
Yes.
All right, so as far as I wanted to mostly talk about fan questions because that's
right.
Getting answers is a really big deal. So what's the question you get asked the most besides Miss Parker's first name?
What happened to Baby Parker?
What's Sydney's last name?
Sydney's last name we're going to find out in the second novel, so we can take that one off the list.
And when are Jared and Miss Parker going to be a couple?
When are Jared and Miss Parker going to be a couple?
That's still on the drawing board.
It is. That's a big move. We've got to make sure that we've got that one.
But but one thing we are doing in the books is really exploring their emotional binds or connections to each other, which on the show you can see that and we can talk about it on a surface level, but in the books and in the graphic novels we can really get into it in a much deeper level.
Well, I also wanted to ask you the difference between writing something in novel form and writing for TV. So what sort of challenges did you guys find?
To me, there was more positives than challenges because, as Steve said, you could really get into the characters' heads a lot more and reveal things and explore things that you just never could on a TV series, and that's really rewarding when you can do that. And it's funny because for me, the dialogue is the hardest thing to write in a novel, which in TV that's what drives it, because I'm so into. What are they thinking? What are their impressions of the people around them, the situation, the tension, and all that? And I think it's great fun. I really like that.
Well, and there's things like, what is the thought process? One of the most difficult things about the TV show is you write scenes and whatnot of Jared coming into a situation. Well, you have a character who is not who he says he is, and relating to people in a way that is not how he would relate. So you don't really learn anything about him. The only way you learn about him is in those flashbacks or when he's talking to Miss Parker or Sydney because no one else knows who he is. But in this form, not only do we get to go into his head and we can see what makes him tick, we can see what makes him nervous, what makes him afraid in the middle of a pretend, literally what his process is in creating a pretend. And we went into it in great depth, and for me in particular, I'm sure for Craig as well, it was territory we never explored. To like what really goes on and what is he really thinking when he's going to slice a person's body open and as a doctor, and he's not really a doctor. That's pretty. It was pretty intense and a really unique vision, and that's again, I don't want to belabor the point, but it is that aspect of looking into those characters and finding out things about them allows us to answer all these vast questions that were